Hey yo, what's up everybody? This is the Firecracker, straight from Atlanta, Georgia. This is a little verse I put together for the Dopey Nation. I kept it short for Dave. Yo man, this don't matter if you sober or you high. As long as you in that fight, man. We all feel you, we know where you been. We've been there, we are there, we love you. Yeah, little verse, you know what I'm saying, for the Dopey. Stay strong, yo. 16 right here, yo. This is the Firecracker. I'm reporting to you live. Doesn't matter if you're sober or just sorta getting high. This a message filled with hope and patience. I hope you make it. Being sober is amazing. Shout out to the Dopey Nation. Can't give out my whole location. Hashtag anonymous. I'm in the depths of 12 steps, searching for the promises. Tomorrow is a vision. Why is it so blurry? I'ma find my way home, mama, don't worry. To the ones still lost, please take this as a warning. Got sober so I'm dry, but outside it's still storming. Every relapse from a weed sack, kept stepping like my knee snapped. I pray that I get this, I forget this, I don't need that. I see that, I need to say goodbye to my party days. Mostly fun and partly pain. Word up to Artie Lang, stay strong Dave. Keep carrying the message. From New York to Georgia, you are such a fucking blessing. Can't forget Chris when I scribble down these doodles. We miss you homie, R.I.P. fucking toodles. Yeah, Firecracker, you know what I mean? A little bit of dope, yeah. Dopey Nation, yeah. Peace.
So this episode of Dopey is brought to you by our friends at Aloe Recovery, located in sunny Southern California, in Silver Lake and Malibu, and created by our good friend Bob Forrest and his friend Evan and their friend Bob. Aloe is a place that takes care of an addict who is in trouble. If you have to kick heroin or benzos or coke or alcohol and you don't know where to go, I suggest you go to Aloe, because Aloe is a place that treats addicts with respect. Their tagline is compassion, not control, because Bob and Evan had been to enough places that disrespected them and didn't take care of the suffering addict. They offer a comfortable detox. They offer dual diagnosis treatment. They offer amenities out the yin-yang, including surfing, sweat lodges, sound bath meditation, and equine therapy. If you're fucked and you're willing to go to Southern California to get help and you want to see Bob, go to Aloe. Support for Dopey comes from Manscaped, who is #1 in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. I have a very good friend. You know him. His name is Sam. He loves to groom himself, but the problem is he uses an old pair of scissors. Sam has told me he's had problems with that nipping his testicles, and that is why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't nig or snag your nuts. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. And don't use the same trimmer on your face as you're using on your balls. That's just nasty. Manscaped also has the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why are you not putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DOPEY, that's capital D-O-P-E-Y, at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools for the job. Your balls will thank you, and so will the special someone in your life. They sent me a ton of beautiful stuff, creams, t-shirts, trimmers, this and that. Sam's disgusting grooming practice is going to be a thing of the past thanks to Manscaped. Use the code DOPEY. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by listeners like you in the Dopey Nation by supporting Dopey with the Dopey Patreon account. That's www.patreon.com/dopeypodcast. Give $1, give $2, give more. When you give money to the Dopey Patreon account, it shows that you care about the show. It helps me make the show better. So support Dopey and give money there. If you want stickers, you Venmo me. If you want hats, you do the same thing. If you want shirts and sweatshirts, go to www.dopeypodcast.com. DopeyCom is coming up. There's going to be tons of merchandise there. Send in stories so you can be a speaker at DopeyCon. Unless you live in Appalachia, you may not have given much thought to what life is like there. A apart from some vague images of banjos, forested mountains, and the moonshine tradition. If you are an afflicted member of the Dopey Nation, though, you may be curious to know that there are a lot of addicts like you in Appalachia. While there are strong communities of recovery throughout the region, greater help is sorely needed, as more addicts die every day. A recent study by the Appalachian Regional Commission found that overdose deaths were 65% more common in Appalachia than elsewhere, and the death rate is particularly high among those between the ages of 25 and 44. Healing Appalachia works to make it easier for those seeking freedom from addiction to find a way out. It is the mission of Healing Appalachia, presented by Hope in the Hills, to organize an incredible day of music, recovery, speakers, food, and enjoyment in order to raise funds for organizations that support recovery across the Appalachian region. On September 28th, the second annual Healing Appalachia concert will be held in Lewisburg, West Virginia. Headlining the event will be Tyler Childers, a storytelling singer-songwriter who just released his new album at #1 on the country charts, along with Brian Fallon of Gaslight Anthem, the Gibson Brothers, Arlo McKinley, and the Lonesome Sound and Sonora May. Perhaps most exciting for the Dopey Nation, though, is the chance to see Dave make his debut emceeing the entire event. It's true. If you want to get away for some great music while supporting a worthy Dopey cause, come to Healing Appalachia on September 28th. All-day tickets are only $35 pre-show and $50 at the door. If you cannot make it to beautiful West Virginia for the event, please consider donating to Healing Appalachia's mission. Details are at healingappalachia.org, Healing Appalachia on Facebook, and at Healing Appalachia on Instagram. Hello, and welcome to Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And I'm Dave, and we're in Manhattan, and I have a very special guest in person. First time I've seen Aurora in 2 years. Here she is. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here in Manhattan at Allen's Place.
When's the last time you think you were here?
Probably 1997.
1997. Long time ago. And I haven't seen Aurora in probably...
20 months.
20 months. And Aurora and I used to go to this. I was the reason that Aurora got sober. I was, obviously, as you guys probably know, a terrible drug addict, and I needed to change my life, so I decided to get sober. And Aurora was a pretty bad drug addict too, and me and her would smoke weed every day and hang out, and she would carouse and drink champagne and whatever. She went away, I got sober, and she started calling me from California with romantic problems.
And other problems.
Yeah, lots of
Work
problems.
problems.
You got to talk into the mic, though.
Friend problems.
Yeah, a lot of problems. And what happened, Aurora? What was the story?
So I was about to turn 40.
Yes.
And you were insane. Linda had caught you taking benzos, and you were maybe going to lose the
I'd lost custody.
You lost custody, and you were so crazy. I thought you were going to have to go to the psych unit. I couldn't even barely speak to you.
I was also on a little bit of a pill run, if you don't remember. I was on a little bit of a pill run, and I knew I had to stop taking the pills, so I threw them away. And I was just I was rocked. You know what I mean? And I went to a meeting, and I was like...
Wait, I'm not finished with my story.
Oh, please.
So you were crazy. I lost out on this job, and I was about to turn 40, and I didn't have any relationship, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't have that fucking sweet trip to Machu Picchu for my 40th. And then I called a friend in LA, and she said, "Do you want to come out here and work on this project?"
Crazy friend.
And it was, kind of someone that I said I wouldn't work with before. Again.
Because she's a lunatic.
Stop. She's not a lunatic.
Does she listen to the show? Okay.
But what if she listens to the show?
Okay, well, I feel fine with my opinion. Anyway, continue.
No, that wouldn't be good. She's a dear friend.
Well, then you don't think she's a lunatic, but I do.
Right. So I went to Los Angeles, and then I got out there, and then, I didn't have a car. My housing situation was a fucking 5-year-old futon on the floor. I can't sleep on a futon on the floor. I was like the Princess and the Pea. I slept on it for like one night. I had a fucking
Wait, where was the futon on the floor?
At my friend Jenny's.
Okay.
So
even crazier than this other person, by the way. Continue.
That might be true. And anyway, I was trying not to drink. I was really managing my drinking. I wasn't smoking any weed. I was only eating edibles.
Wow. But why?
I don't fucking know. It makes no sense.
I was like, it was like a thing. Like, I'm not going to smoke pot. Yeah. I'm just going to eat edibles.
Yeah.
As a thing.
It was a thing.
And it was after I had gotten clean. I mean, I was the big impetus. We were smoking weed like chimneys before you left.
So you got clean, and then I went out there and then quickly realized, like, what the fuck am I doing out here? I don't have a good plan. And you had started going to meetings and were literally restored to sanity.
Well, I remember...
You were.
I remember there was this place. I lived on East Broadway and Clinton Street, and there was this place called Heartland or some fucking restaurant that I loved. Do you remember that place? They made this roast chicken dish with mashed potatoes and a vegetable, and on special occasions, I would get this dish. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it wasn't called Heartland. It's called something else.
It's probably gone now. You and me walked there to pick up takeout, like one of the last days of that period. And we walked back, and I remember sitting on my terrace, chain smoking cigarettes, sitting on my terrace, freaking out, like just not well. You know what I mean? And I think I had a couple days clean, or like a day or something. And I remember just like almost talking to myself like a deranged person.
You were deranged.
And I remember I was listening to Donovan, Sunshine Superman, and you walked to the bathroom and you did some little Austin Powers dance move where you like kicked your legs and spun around, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it's like I listen to that song from time to time, and I always think of you walking away, and somehow it was built into me being like, I got to change my life. I can't be around this crazy person.
Me?
No, I'm just kidding. I just have it built into my head, though, that moment. I'm sure you don't remember that moment. It was like, it was just because I was like literally talking to myself, and I was literally saying, well, they keep telling me that I'll be restored to sanity if I do what they tell me to do. So I'm going to do what they tell me to do and hope it works out. I remember that was the beginning, and I would say that to you, and you were like, yeah, tell me if it works out. And then I remember one night I was coming home from a meeting I was on Norfolk Street, I think, or whatever street that is over there. And I used to it was the street. I only think of it like this because when I was using, prior to that, like when I was really strung out on heroin, there was this Chinese guy, like from China, that lived on the street, and he had a sister who worked in the methadone clinic. And he had a fucking like 30-gallon vat of methadone in his fridge, and he would sell me methadone, and he would draw it up in one of these turkey baster things with a hose attached to it, and he'd sell me methadone. And that was like the first place I ever smoked crack, was with him on this street. And this Chinese guy, and he still lives there. And I ran into him. He's like, when I had just gotten clean, he's like, oh, if you ever have a problem, just take one of these. And he gives me like an 8 milligram Suboxone. Mm-hmm. And I had that until I gave it to Todd. Anyway, the point was, I was clean, and I was walking home from a meeting, and you called me from California. You were obsessed with this man who lives, I think, in the Midwest. And you were like bugged out, as we tend to get when we're unsure of a situation. And I was like, I don't know, Aurora. It sounds like maybe you should try to get clean too.
Yes, you did suggest to me that I try to get clean. I think you said for 90 days, and I thought that's ridiculous. I'm a freelancer. Like, I have to drink in order to get jobs.
I think I suggested try it for 30 days. And
I think you said 30.
And you'll probably want to try it for 60, and then you'll probably want to try it for 90 because... so anyway, before I even get to the story that I want to tell, I just want to say this, that I find in my own recovery that the idea of using scares the shit out of me, because everything that I've done since I used to use would end. You know what I mean? And like maybe I mean, how long do you think if you started drinking or using or something, could you coast without everything falling apart?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
I think I could coast maybe a couple days. Because for me, I think that work could stay intact and like bills could get paid, but Linda would find out like within a couple of days, and that would like destroy everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I've built a nice, I mean, like the point of the story is I've built a nice life in recovery, and I don't want to risk it. And so today,
I might be able to go the rest of my life. I don't know. But I truly don't think that I can have the most fulfilling, successful, happy life using.
right, you could be a functional drug-using alcoholic because you were.
I might be able to. I think it would take all of my sanity, all my self-worth, all my self-acceptance, all my self-confidence again. You know, I think it would ultimately destroy me.
But I think it's interesting, though, that you, like Aurora, held jobs together. She grew her career doing coke and binging on alcohol and putting herself in weird situations. She never toppled the apple cart, and I bet it's because of your family.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, you know.
And I don't mean that in a good way, because Aurora came from a totally addicted family.
You know, when I look back on, like, you know, in college, I loved to take a lot of pills. I loved to take, like, Vicodins and hydrocodones. And
I think they're the same thing.
I think they are the same thing. Percocets. I love to take all those pills my entire life, but I would push it to a certain edge, you know? Like, I remember when I had dental work, I got 60 Percocet, and I spent, you know, a couple weeks taking all 60 Percocet. But then I knew I couldn't. I was always, you know, because my mom was a heroin addict, I always knew that opiates, like, were dangerous for me to tread. So I would never use heroin, but I would fuck around with pills to a certain point. But I wouldn't want to go overboard with them because I wouldn't, you know, I was afraid of becoming an IV drug user. But I forget what my point was. But yeah.
You had a certain tether to you that you did not let it get past a certain place, because then it became like a gutturally terrifying situation that you couldn't live with.
Right.
Where for me, I think it was the opposite, that I wanted to get untethered, you know, because we grew up in basically the most opposite of situations, you know, and I wanted to get untethered to my incredibly safe middle-class Jewish roots, and you wanted to stay tethered to whatever shambles of roots you had left, you know. And I don't say that, like, lightly. You know what I mean? Aurora, like, her mother was a heroin addict. Her father was a heroin addict and an alcoholic, and you were raised by your grandma, you know, in a very safe place. But it's still, those roots were not the natural sort of course of things. Those were the outcome of your parents' crazy lives.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, the point of the story that I'm trying to tell is that Aurora's in town. She's very busy working. I'm obviously busy with a bunch of different stuff, so we didn't get to see each other until today. And the show actually comes out today, which is exciting. That rarely happens. I should put out a live tweet to ask questions, but nobody really has any questions. Anyway, so I was like, let's go meet at the meeting that we used to go to. The first meeting where I got sober, and it was also the meeting
where I got sober. It was the place where I went to my first meeting. So when I came back from Los Angeles, I was there for 3 months in 2015, and I was talking to Dave on the phone all the time, and I saw him restored to sanity. And like the literature talks about, like I think it's in the first step in the 12 and 12, you suggested to me that I might want to try to get sober. And it's something that never occurred to me until you suggested it. And I saw that it worked for you. And then I came back to New York, and I'd been here for 2 days. And then I found myself, you know, at the bar with, you know, somebody I really had no business being with, drinking more than I wanted to drink, and feeling that, like, hopeless futility once again. And I called you, and I was complaining, and you said, why don't you just come to the meeting with me tomorrow? Why don't you just come to the meeting and check it out? And I did.
And such a culty story, you know. It's like, I mean, I know that, like, one of the things I always...
It didn't feel culty.
No, but it didn't feel culty, because in a lot of ways it's like...
I think, I mean, those were powerful moments for me when, I mean, like, I'm like, oh, the literature. But, like, it was powerful for me when I would read that in the book and then be like, holy shit, like, that's my exact experience.
Yeah, I didn't have the same. That annoyed me. Whenever I read literature and I felt like it mirrored me, it annoyed me in a way.
I mean, it's insane. My mother was a drug addict. My father was a drug addict. My aunt Nancy had 31 years of sobriety in AA. She was a huge AAer in the middle of shit and would take me to meetings with her as a little kid. It never once crossed my mind until you suggested it that I would. I didn't even remember what AA. I didn't even remember it was a thing.
Right. I think that's funny. I think like I always hated the idea of the cultiness of it, like when you got there. But what I liked about it was like it was someplace to go. You know what I mean? Like as a drug addict, like I like to hang out with other drug addicts, and that rarely could happen because you're all fuck off drug addicts, and you rarely get it together. Especially like how much, depending on what you do. Like when I was doing heroin, I had this weird thing where I would always befriend some old weird junkie, and me and the old weird junkie would go out and cop. Like somebody I'd be friends with in the methadone clinic, and we would have a deal where every morning at 9 a.m, me and some weird old junkie would hang out, and like we'd wind up watching 90210 or something. Forever, I can think of like 4 or 5 different weird old men that I saw every day for like 90 days at a time until like they would get arrested or something. And like, it's just bizarre, you know? I told you the story of the professor, right?
Yeah.
You know, that like, that's like, I think the craziest story. I think I've told it on Dopey, where I had a drug dealer and they called him Tony Baloney. You know, if you called his phone, like he didn't call, I think his name was Mike, but if you called his phone and he didn't answer the phone, it would go, "You have reached Tony Baloney. Leave a message," or something, you know, something like that. And I was like, and you'd hear it all the time until he would pick up the phone. And it was just like the most remarkable thing when Mike would pick up the phone. And I let Mike live at my house, you know, on 24th Street. I let him live on the floor of my house, and I would get, I don't know, 5 bags or 10 bags. I don't remember the deal. And all the junkies would come to my apartment to cop, okay, in the building over there. And one day, this old man comes to cop. And I had all these old cameras, you know, that my cousin had given me.
Yeah.
These metal body cameras. And the old man goes, "Oh, these cameras, they look really nice. Would you want to sell them to me?" And the old man was there trading pills to Mike for heroin. So I was like, "Well, you know, I'd sell him to you, or I'd trade him to you. Why don't you give me some pills for him?" So he gave me like fucking 200 Klonopins or something for a bag of old Minolta metal body cameras. And who knew? Like it was junk in my closet in my mind, even though I had an idea that I wanted to take pictures too. But so I wound up trading him all these old 70s metal body cameras in this old bag for a bunch of Klonopins and Xanax, I think. And that's when I became friends with this man. And it turned out he was a printmaking professor from Brooklyn College. He was in his 60s. And he lived in Soho in a loft that he probably bought before lofts were worth anything. Mm-hmm. And his loft was fucked up. Like it was gigantic space. So big that it had a printmaking machine in it. You know, as big as 20-foot long printmaking machine. The place is fucking immense. And it was like a hoarder fucking place. Magazines piled up everywhere. The kitchen was like out of fucking the 70s, where just like the soap looked dirty. Just filthy fucking place. And they had a little bedroom that they built up with Japanese screens, and the bed was on the floor, surrounded by stacks of magazines. And they probably had like the last black and white television in New York. Or maybe they just watched channels that showed black and white movies, because his wife was this old junkie hippie with long hair, and she would sit there watching black and white movies, and she was a sweetheart, like such a nice lady. And but she was funny. Like she would be sitting there, and the fan would be going, and her hair would get caught in the fan. Like, "Oh, my hair's caught in the fan." It was like a total thing. And me and this guy, the professor, would wander around Lower Manhattan to cop dope. Every morning, I would go meet him at fucking 6:30 in the morning, and me and him would wander around. It was like a movie. And like if he wasn't there, she'd be like, "Oh, go down to the Spring Lounge or whatever that bar was, you know, on Spring Street, and find him." you know, and I would find him. And when I went to jail, I would come out of jail dope sick. I went into jail a couple times in central booking, and I would come out of jail dope sick, and they would always give me dope. You know, like they took care of me. And then one time I went over there, I go upstairs, and there's a kid there. And it turned out the kid went to my high school. He was a year older than me. He was actually friends with me.
Was he their son?
And he was their son.
Oh.
It was the craziest fucking thing. Anyway, and then I wound up moving to California. They died. Both of them died within years.
How did you know they died?
Because I have a friend who was like best friends with this guy. And it all just came out. But it was really one of those small world situations.
Wow.
Anyway, so we went to this meeting this morning, and the idea was for me to triumphantly return to the place that I got sober, where I was going to walk in and everyone's going to be like excited to see me. You know what I mean? Because it's 4 years. We walk into this place. It's like a fucking ghost town. Nobody's there.
I knew that.
I didn't know that.
I thought you knew that.
I figured it would be robust with good looking people who are happy to see me.
No, that meeting is like died in the last 2 years. That meeting, a lot of regulars stopped attending it. They started going to the competitors meeting at 7:30 a.m.
The super bougie meeting.
Yeah, and this meeting, has changed. It lost a lot of people. So we saw only a couple of regulars who were there when we got sober.
Skeleton crew. And also, like, it was a terrible meeting. It was a tradition meeting. It was super boring. The speaker, couldn't talk. He was like, and he was like, when I first came to this fellowship, I didn't know if I should be here, and I decided that I didn't really have to be here, and it was like Aurora had gotten up when he started qualifying. Aurora went to the bathroom and she didn't come back. I was like, what happened?
I was on the phone with Delta.
Wow, it was an experience, and in the end, though, it really made me think about the first days that I actually did get sober.
I just they have these wooden plaques that have been in this room forever that say halt and easy does it, but do it, and
think.
Keep it simple and think. Just being in that room and seeing those little wooden signs, all that kind of stuff made the meeting for me.
I got in that room and I was just like, there's nobody rooting for me here. I was like, where's my people? I just had this fantasy. It's like with Katz's. Did I ever tell you my number one fantasy with Katz's?
What?
My number one fantasy is to stop working there, right? And then come back. And people to be happy to see me. That was my fantasy for this group today. And it totally didn't happen. I mean, there were a couple people that were kind of happy to see me. But what it really reminded me of was, the first meeting I went to, the very famous Australian or New Zealand painter was like, we would be very honored if you returned every day. And I was like, that's great. And then the second meeting I went to was a big book meeting, which I think there were Mondays, right?
Mm-hmm, Monday.
And it's funny because when you hear people share at meetings, they share about a big book meeting where they try to figure out which passage they're going to read. So they're going to be smart when they read it or whatever. And I stopped doing that a while ago, but I remember that first day that I was there, I did that. And I remember in that stupid meeting, you have to read a thing and then say what it means to you. You remember that?
Right. You read a paragraph and then you share.
And I don't like that format. I'd rather if we just read it and everybody shares. But, I remember sharing and being like, do I sound smart? Do I sound this? Blah, blah, blah. And I wound up leaving early because my father came to the meeting. Because at that point, I didn't have custody. I couldn't see my daughter without my dad. And I had my dad pick me up outside of that meeting on Sullivan Street. And he was there at 8:20 or something. So at 8:20, and I didn't want anyone in the room to see me getting picked up by my dad. You know what I mean? I was embarrassed. And, but I remember I was hopeless. I had nothing going for me. Mm-hmm. And I got into my dad's car and we drove out to Long Island. And here we are 4 years later. Linda and I had another kid. My career has blossomed. Dopey has blossomed. And it's because I started going to that meeting in the first place. It's really amazing. That's like the amazing part about, the point of Dopey. It was 2 points. One was the stories were so ridiculously funny and crazy. And 2, that you could have fun being sober. Those were the 2 points, and, I kind of ran out of stories. Like Chris and I both ran out of stories kind of 100 episodes in or something. But, I find that there are funny stories in recovery worth telling, and I think we have a Dopey story right here. This is going to be an episode that really kind of like tries to, do a little clearinghouse of Dopey business, because there's been so many emails and voicemails that we haven't gotten to. So here's, I think this is a Dopey story, and forgive me, you guys, we get a lot, and it's very hard to keep track of. I try to write back to everybody, and I want to make this announcement. There's a woman who wrote me that wants me to take something out of some old episode, which I was very angry about, but I forgot who it is and what it was. So if you're still listening, write me again and I'll take the thing out of the episode.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
There's some woman who sent in an email that Chris and I read.
And she wants you to take it out?
She wants us to take it out.
Why?
Because we didn't even say her fucking name. She said because you can figure out who she is. But the point is that she asked me to take it out, so I should take it out. Here, this is a long Dopey story email. Would you like to read it?
Yes. Okay, it's from Jake. Hey, Dave. Recently tweeted at you on Twitter about your 200th episode. Previously, I had direct messaged you through Twitter as well about a super quick rundown of my history, but I don't know if you're tech savvy enough to have seen that.
I might not be.
I've been thinking of these stories that I still can't remember, and the ones wait, what? I've been thinking of these stories that I still can remember and the ones that I can't remember. I'm sure you understand. But these great stories sometimes are forgotten until something sparks them. The time I got pulled over with hundreds of bars in my car, the time I had a half zip of weed and a half gram of dope with 20 needles in my car when getting pulled over as the drug dog sat in the cop car barking its head off. The time I decided to trade a stranger, an attractive lady, I couldn't say no, a shot from my stash for her K-pins that resulted in her falling out and getting her to come to right before we got off the exit for the hospital. There are just so many, and the craziest ones don't even come to mind. The shit we do when we have serious addiction problems, right? I could do many hilarious stories and many sad stories, but there's one that came to mind recently that I get a good laugh at. In this former life, I'd been working for a small pizza chain in some undisclosed Midwestern town. I had worked my way up to GM somehow in one of these stores at this point. Before this incident, I'd been more about vaping hash oil in the back and taking the occasional bar or two toward closing time. But by the time the incident began that I'm detailing, I had previously snorted dope and coke daily and had recently moved to IV. I couldn't go to work without my works, so here I am speedballing at work most days. But this particular day, I had only dope. This is the day I realized that
Wait, hold on. This is a good story, by the way. This is the kind. If you have a story like this in your life, you should send it in. Anyway, continue, please. I'm sorry.
Sounds like when I lived in Minneapolis, there was a place called Pizza Luce, and it sounds like this is the kind of like Pizza Luce is where this shit would go.
I wonder if this is a Pizza Luce GM.
It might be. But this particular day, I only had dope. This is the day I realized that doing coke raised my tolerance for the dope in exponential amounts. So this day, where I was going only on dope, I did about half a gram at work of some great stuff over the course of 3 to 4 hours. I quickly noticed I had begun nodding. If you know anything about pizza places, you know the convection oven is burning hot and has a window on one side for the preparer to fix any issues or move any stuck pizzas to allow the pizzas to continue on their happy path to the end of the conveyor belt of the oven. There are sides of the oven, and outside these lines, the pizza can get jammed halfway through the oven on the conveyor belt. Long story short...
I'm thinking it's Pizza Hut or Domino's, by the way, but continue.
Long story short, we're halfway through the Friday night rush. The worst time for a pizza place, and I'm fucking nodding. I'm looking worse than the guys in the Dopey logos. Way worse. Thank God the business owner wasn't here on this night. So I'm cutting these pizzas, doing quality insurance, and then organizing them on the warmers for pickup delivery. So I nearly fall asleep cutting a pizza, and I'm alarmed by my good friend that, hey, man, you got to get your shit together. There's like 5 pizzas in a jam in the middle of the oven by the window. So I get a surge of adrenaline and come to the rescue. It just sucks because the rescue was a failure. So I nodded way back out while sticking my arm into the window to unjam the backup. Ends up that I'd fallen asleep standing up trying to unjam the pizzas and woke up to that same friend with me against the counter where you cut pizzas. I look at him and say, "What's up, buddy? Not a bad Friday, right?" He looks at me like I'm the most idiotic person ever born and tells me that things were horrible. Without explaining, he tells me to look at my forearm. I look down, and there is this purplish black burn covered in dead skin about 4 inches long along my forearm. I had fallen asleep with my arm on an oven. My friend said he didn't know for how long it was, but he smelled a funky smell like burning flesh and immediately saw the plight of my being. At this point, he said he would call the ambulance or take me to the ER. I said, "No, dude, don't." Luckily, my friend was very capable of handling the business of the night. And the night went by okay without the owner hearing about it. I went back to the first aid kit to get some ointment and gauze to wrap the arm up, but then woke up 2 hours later at closing time with all the components of the first aid kit sprawled on the ground. I'd passed out again. My friend had done everything I was supposed to do that night, and I had accrued a horrible burn that still looks horrendous 3 years later. I should have learned something, right? Nope. After work, I ended up at my dealer's house, shot a load of coke and dope, then made my way home, all while running over a large embankment about a foot tall. I remember running over it and just laughing like a passing hilarious observation. I'd fucked up my front and rear bumper fairly well, but in that moment, who the fuck cares? Woke up in the morning and noticed that I'd probably have to pay at least $1,000 to take care of what I did. But I got up and the first thing I did was go to my dealer. I started the whole cycle over again. I probably drove around for a month with those hanging bumpers before getting them fixed. The more I read this, the less entertaining it is and the more sad it is. Oh well. I just laugh at the fact that any one of us could be so doped out we could literally burn ourselves for an indeterminate amount of time without even knowing because we feel so good. It speaks to how checked out we become and how at peace we are in these horrible states. But in reality, it's a false peace. It's a mirage. Minutes later, we come to and realize we've cooked our epidermis, not just rare, but well done. And people with good taste don't prefer well done. I agree. By the way, happy Christmas. I'm grateful that you guys started the show and that you continue on even without Chris. I hope you and his family have found peace by now, and I think he helped plenty of people. One hopes he helped more than he hurt, and I think he definitely did. Keep doing your thing, Dave. You've done a great service with this podcast, not just for me, but for plenty of people out there. Stay strong, Dave, and Dopey Nation, and toodles.
That's a great email, don't you think?
I think it was a good story.
That is a great Dopey story, and it reminds me of this weird sort of thing that happened. Me and my family went on vacation, and we went to the Catskills. And nowadays, and I've talked about this on the show, I have this, maybe I've always had them, but I have these allergies, these just terrible allergies. At the meeting today, I couldn't stop sneezing.
How many times did you get up to chew paper towel in the meeting?
I didn't chew paper towel. I was blowing my nose.
You were in the bathroom so many times.
So were you. It's like you were there half the time. I thought you were fucking snorting coke or something. You were in the bathroom. She also left the meeting while I shared.
That's because Delta was calling again.
I raised my hand. Hi, my name is David. I'm an alcoholic. Aurora gets up and walks away.
That's not true. I left 2 minutes into your 3-minute share, and 2 minutes is all I fucking need to hear from you.
Wow. That's not nice. That's terrible. Anyway, she was barely sitting in the meeting too. But anyway, I was terribly allergic at the meeting, and I was terribly allergic on the trip. And, it was night, and I'm sneezing. And also, when we go on vacation, it's like we get a hotel room with 2 full beds and a crib. And Linda always gets one bed, and me and Nora get the other bed, and the baby obviously gets the crib. And Nora fucking sleeps in the middle of the bed.
All children sleep in the middle of the bed.
She sleeps in the middle of the bed, and I like to roll back and forth in my lane, but I don't have a lane, and I'm allergic. So this kind of situation calls for Benadryl. So I went to the gas station, and I love Benadryl, like I just do. I love how I sleep on it. And you get these crazy, kind of scary Benadryl dreams. Like, I don't know if you know anything about Benadryl, but it's like I love NyQuil and I love Benadryl. I don't take NyQuil unless I'm really sick. Benadryl,
this does not sound sober.
It's sober enough, okay? It's like, don't judge my program. In this situation, it was
I don't judge your program. Well, I don't tell you my judgments about your program.
Yes, you
anymore.
do. You do.
No,
both.
I don't.
Well, that's smart.
Dave and I used to get in so many fights about his program.
It's funny because Aurora calls me seeking advice from me too. You know, I mean, that's the best part, that you judge me and you crave my sanity. Right?
Yeah, that's what a friendship is.
Is that neither here nor there?
That's
anyway,
what a friendship is.
So I only take half the dose of the Benadryl, if you're curious. And so I take the Benadryl and I fall into my sleep. And in my dream, it was a very weird dream. I'm like in college, okay? And who do I see with me in college but Chris?
Oh.
And but he's thin, like skinnier than he was in real life. And he has a fucking nose ring on the side of his nose, like a hoop. Okay. And in the dream, he hadn't died. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was dead.
How many times have you dreamt of Chris?
I'd say 4 or 5, maybe more.
That's incredible.
Why?
I think like in 19 years since my mom died, I've only dreamt of her like 4 or 5 times.
I think I've dreamt.
Same for my grandma. It's very rare that I dream about people that have died.
You know what's really weird?
And it's it's intense when I do.
I've dreamt about my mother 4 or 5 times. I've dreamt about Todd. I always had the same dreams about Todd, which is like where I was trying to get drugs and I run into Todd and we're like trying to get drugs together and we always get them and like we can't use them. Like I've had a million dreams like that with Todd since he's died.
Before he died.
Yeah. And then since he's died, I've had a few like that too. I had a dream about Todd and Chris on this trip. You know, I never have dreams about my kids. Very rarely are my kids in my dreams. And I'm not a dream analyst, so I don't know what this stuff means. Anyway, in the dream with Chris, he hadn't died, and he's got the cockamamie nose ring, and he looked like kind of like a dick version of himself. Like he's thin with this nose ring, and his hair like looked good and stuff. Which Chris's hair rarely looked good. He like had a hard time with his hair. But he comes up to me in the dream. He had chosen to stop doing Dopey because he wanted to use.
Aww.
In the dream. And he comes up to me and he's like, yeah, I've been listening to the show and, you know, I think I should come back on. And I was like, and I kind of got pissed at him in the dream. And and then I was like, he could probably be a good guest in the dream. I was thinking, you know what I mean? And then I was like, but there's this split, you know, like we have this, because in the dream we had a fight where he decided not to do the show anymore because he wanted to get high. And like, that was like a decision he made. And so when I woke up, I would say for half a minute, I forgot that he had died. Like for 30 seconds, I was like, oh, this is exciting. Chris is going to come do the show. I thought that for 30 seconds. Then I was like, wait a second. And like, and it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
You know, it's just such a crazy thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that thing. You know, especially in regard to this, like Dopey is so central to my life. And I know how central it is to a lot of you guys. So like, how crazy is it, the idea of me being excited that Chris could be a good guest on Dopey? It's like so sad. You know what I mean? It's such a sad and crazy thing.
It's also like all your fears, right? That he didn't want to do the show anymore. And then in the dream, he'd quit the show.
Right.
When you didn't know he was, like, that's what was going on with him, was that he was using and you didn't realize he was using, but you felt this shift, this change, and you thought you were going to lose what you had with him on Dopey, and then you did.
Right. Anyway, which leads me to the great and all-powerful upcoming DopeyCon, which I don't think Aurora's going to be at.
I might. I'm going to try.
You're going to try to come?
Yeah, if I can come, I'll come.
So here's the quick update on DopeyCon. Mountainside, which is the rehab where Chris and I met, decided that they wanted to host DopeyCon, which is very cool. They're opening a facility, but they haven't announced it yet. So they don't want me to announce it. They don't want me to announce where it's going to be, the street address. So I'm going to tell you it's in Chelsea. It's near 18th Street. It's going to be October 12th. It's going to be roughly at 7 o'clock at night. It's going to be over. The doors will open around 7. The event will start around 8. I think it's very cool that Mountainside decided to do it because, like, it's very mystical.
Is this going to be like a live stream, like a live broadcast?
No, it is not going to be a live broadcast. What it's going to be is it's going to be Dopey live. You know, it's going to be a lot of elements.
It's going to be Dopey live, but it's not going to be live.
It's not going to be live on the internet. It's going to be live in person.
Copy.
Because I can't handle figuring out how to put it on the internet live. I can handle getting it I don't even know.
If there's anyone who can help Dave technologically with streaming it live.
No, I don't want any help. I don't want to deal with it. I don't even know how we're going to record it. I mean, that's going to be a whole issue in itself. So what I see it as is it's going to be part Dopey like this, part storytelling jam like the Moth, and then a little bit of music, a little bit of question and answer. I was talking to one of the Dopey Nation administrators of the Facebook page today, Leah, and she was saying how she wants to come and share. So I was like, sharing. I was like, how do we set up timed sharing for DopeyCon, or else these dopey people are going to be, I don't know, but there's going to be some kind of sharing, you know. I think DopeyCon is just as much for me as for you guys, as for everybody. Maybe more for you guys, or maybe not.
If I come, can I be the timer? I'm a really good timer.
No, you probably sit so indignantly and like wave your finger and go, time. I used to hate that fucking, and you know, where I go to my meetings now, there are no time chairs.
Oh my God, what a nightmare.
No time chairs, no raising your hand. You just talk.
Oh God.
It's a mess. But the only thing worse than no time chairs is the timer who says, time. It's like, fuck you.
You don't say anything. You just you just keep doing the chime.
Oh, you do the fucking chime.
I don't do the chime. I do the doorbell.
Ding dong. And then it's like a minute later, you're like, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding
Exactly.
ding. It's like,
I learned from an old timer in my home group. That's how he did it.
And then the lunatic on the ding dong, and then the lunatic sharing. It's like, who's going to be fucking crazier?
Me.
The person who keeps talking. My shares are so fucking, you know, I don't even get close to 3 minutes because I don't want to hear that fucking sound while I'm talking. I don't get close. I was like 2:30 today.
Yeah, so I barely missed a thing.
You didn't stay for 2 minutes. You probably got up after 45 seconds. Let's go to a Dopey voicemail, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is from a stalwart member of the Dopey Nation community. Her name is Jessie, and she recently came to Manhattan, and she contacted me, and I met her at the same smoothie place that we went to today. And
That's your spot.
Yeah, that is my new spot. It turns out they're doubling up my peanut butter, though. That's not good.
We had a smoothie this morning, and I got my regular mango, banana, almond milk, spinach.
What a cockamamie concoction.
And peanut butter, or I would have almond butter, but Dave insisted I have peanut butter.
I did not. I didn't. Shut up. I did not. Shush. They didn't have almond butter. You said, "Excuse me, do you have almond butter?"
Is that how I said it?
And he said, "Huh?" You went, "Excuse me, do you have?" I was like, "Leave the guy alone, please." You're like, "Do you have almond butter?" And he goes, "No." You know, and it's like, ugh.
I love peanut butter is my favorite food. I don't have a problem with peanut butter.
Tell the story. It's fun.
So I looked down and I'm like, is that like a scoop of ice cream in my smoothie? It was all peanut butter. The guy tells me they give Dave double peanut butter. It was literally like probably 5 tablespoons worth of peanut butter. It was a huge like ice cream scoop of peanut butter. And I was like horrified. And Dave got all embarrassed and it was like, don't say anything. I was like, I'm going to ask him to take some out. He's like, don't say anything. Just try it. And
it was good, right?
No, it just only tastes like peanut butter.
Listen.
And it's probably like 3,000 calories.
I don't know what happened. I had this whole, you know, I had befriended the people in this place. And I think really what happened was the first time I was there, I ordered my peanut butter, banana, almond milk smoothie. And I said, could you make it really peanut buttery, please? Okay. And it was perfect. And it was delicious because he fucking put the whole thing of peanut butter in there. And I go back there and I give him a tip, and I leave. And then the next day I come back and he makes it for me again and I give him the tip and I leave. And then the guy who makes me the smoothies is named Fernando, and then I found out the manager of the smoothie place is named Hussein, and Hussein says to Fernando one day, teach me how to make this smoothie. And Fernando did, but I wasn't listening to it or anything. But it turns out they were doubling up my peanut butter dosage, which
Double
is
peanut butter.
That's embarrassing. And then Hussein says to Aurora, he goes, the customer likes the double peanut butter. And I was like, double peanut butter? I was like mortified. Anyway, this woman, Jessie, and I took a long walk from
Are you going to cut the peanut butter
What do you mean?
down from...
I'm never going back there again.
Oh, come
I
on.
can't ask for less peanut butter. Are you
Don't
kidding?
be such a pussy. Ask for less peanut butter.
Fuck that. I'm going to go back to the old spot. I'm done with Fernando and Hussein. They're trying to fucking
You got a
poison
good
me.
thing going with them.
I know, but I don't want... I know. I think I'm just going to keep it the way it is. I love the peanut butter. It's delicious. I was like, the other day I was walking and I was like...
Such a glutton.
I was like, wait, does peanut butter have cholesterol in it? Like,
What?
maybe I'm in trouble. And I Google it. It doesn't even have any cholesterol
Oh, it
in
doesn't?
it. No.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. So anyway, so this woman Jessie and I met at Unions by West 4th Street, and she walked me up to Penn Station. We stopped at that place, and I got my traditional double peanut butter, mango, or whatever, almond milk and banana concoction. And she's like, she's a very sweet girl. She's like in training to be a psychologist or social worker, MSW, whatever. And she's like, because she's a faithful Dopey listener, she goes, I brought you some chocolate, okay? And I was like, cool. And she gives me a chocolate bar, and it's like the dark chocolate, but it's infused with hazelnut.
Yeah.
So but I give her that look like, what the fuck? I don't like hazelnut in my chocolate.
What?
Well, I'm a purist, you know what I mean? I don't want, Chris used to buy chocolate with the fruit in it.
No, I don't like fruit in it.
I don't want fruit. I don't want mint. I don't want hazelnut. I don't want shit. Anyway, that night or the night after, I got home and there was no dessert. And I had forgotten that chocolate bar was in my backpack. And I'm like...
let me guess how this story ends. You ate the chocolate bar. You were like, this is incredible with hazelnut. I love it.
That's basically what happened, yeah. That's basically the story.
Contempt prior to investigation.
Yeah, that's basically the story. Yeah. Anyway, here's Jessie's... This is a pretty gnarly, Dopey story.
All right, let's hear it.
All right.
Hey, Dave. It's Jessie's girl from New Hampshire. And I am listening to episode 201, and you are talking about drug dreams. So I just have like a little fun fact for the Dopey Nation. It's actually like not a fact, but I heard that when you have a drug dream and you're not able to use in the dream, which that's like all of mine. I mean, not all of them. I've had some where I've been successful, but it's supposed to symbolize like where you're at your sobriety. So like if you're not able to use in your dream, it's supposed to mean that like you're at a good spot with your sobriety. And obviously, if you're successful, it's supposed to be a sign that you're not being true to your sobriety or your impending relapse is coming. So I don't know if that's true or not. I've had both. So I think I've had like one dream actually where I've been successful in using, but I mean I've had like a million relapses. So, and I've had like a million dreams where like I wasn't successful in using, which is really frustrating. And it's like it was so satisfying in the dream where I did actually have success. But anyway, I've been 18 months sober now, and life's going well. So I'm going to try to hit you with the Dopey, like from the hardcore chick side. So I'm just like going to bring it to you real. So, I just want to see if any other bad bitches out in the Dopey Nation can identify with this insane behavior. So my boyfriend passed away about 3 years ago, and when I got kicked out of rehab, he passed away. I went back to jail. They PR'd me back to a sober living in Portland, Maine. And I think I got sent up there Friday. I think by Sunday I got kicked out. And I met up with one of the girls that I've been in sober living with, and I had my sugar daddy's credit card number, so I was able to go on the Motel 6 website and pay for the room. And then, you know, I just went to the front desk, and then I was like, oh, my dad paid for the room. And they were just like, they didn't really give a fuck, so they just, whatever. They let me not show a credit card. So I was like, I have an ID, but obviously the name didn't match my card. I don't know. Anyway, it worked. So we were in the room, and then we posted up on Backpage. I don't know if you guys know what Backpage is. I don't think it exists anymore. I think it's been shut down since. But it's pretty much like, you know, Craigslist for friggin' turning tricks, you know. So we posted up, and we got this call from this guy. And I just think that this is hilarious. He was like, can you put on high heels and step on my face? So, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what ended up happening. I didn't actually meet up with this guy, so this isn't something that we went through with, but I just thought that was fucking pretty funny. And then... So he, like, had me and this chick had, like, no money. We had, like I said, my sugar daddy's credit card number. So we couldn't really do much. So, you know, we got a call, and this guy was, like, gave us the address. And we were like, well, we don't have any money on us. So, like, we're going to take a cab to you. You're going to need to come out and pay for the cab, you know. And he was like, okay. So we do it. We get the cab. We go there. And then we, like, get to this house. And it's just, like, it's, like, in the middle of the night, you know. It's all dark and stuff. And there was no one there. We're like knocking, and we're like texting him and calling him, texting him, and he like wasn't answering. We're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, first of all, we don't have any money for this cabbie, like, and we didn't know what to do. So we ended up like being like, okay, well, I guess he's not here. And we like are heading back to the hotel, and I'm like, well, I have a credit card number I can give you. That's the only way I can pay you. And that ended up being fine, but the guy was like, he ended up texting us back being like, this is a lesson for you girls, and it's, you know, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but he totally fucked us over. So, I don't know, it was pretty crazy that we were that desperate to get high. And before I'd come up there, so I got like released from jail and went straight to the sober living with my mom. And I was like, oh Mom, I have to pick up my prescription at the drugstore. And so this is like I had a prescription for Adderall. I'm like, I'm going to a sober living, and I just got kicked out for Adderall. So like I know I can't take it. But like of course I have a prescription for 90 30 milligram Adderall. And so I fill it, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to take it today. And then I will when I go up there and I pop hot for Adderall, I'll just tell them that I took it when I was in jail. And I just will only use it today. I won't use any other day, so I'll be good. You know, of course, I'm picking up 90, 30 milligrams. And so I end up, like, putting them, like, in my, like, you know, up my shit, like, in my, like, jail purse or whatever. And they were pink tabs. I don't know if anyone's ever had the pink ones. They weren't orange. They were pink. So, yeah. And so they ended up, like, being, like, kind of, like, the pills ended up in, like, a powder. Because they, like, got wet, kind of. And so it was, like, this big bag of pink Adderall powder that we had been, like, fucking just getting fucked up off of when we were, like, trying to go get high. We were trying to get money so we could get dope or whatever. And, you know, so we had this night, and we ended up doing a trick in the morning, pretty sad, out in the parking lot. Some guy gave me, like, $75 for a blowjob or something. Yeah, really disgusting. And we ended up getting on the Amtrak, which is the train, and taking the train down to Lawrence, Mass, and grabbing. Well, no, it stopped in. I like sold the bag of Adderall powder, and then you know, had enough money to get, like, you know, a couple, like, I don't know, we called them like a big brown, which was like a gram of heroin and, you know, a couple small whites, a couple small half grams of coke. So, yeah, it was pretty bad. I am getting in a fight with this bitch because she was mad that I wouldn't share my drugs. Like, I did share my drugs with her, but she wanted more, and I was like, yo, I did the work, so, and I sold the Adderall, so you, like, be lucky that I'm giving you what I'm giving you. And, yeah, I ended up, like, in the fucking homeless shelter, and my mom I called my mom, and she was like, I'm driving around Portland looking for you. So I ended up going with her and ending up checking into the psych ward. Yeah. So that's my insane story, and, you know, we got to talk about this shit so we can, you know, identify with each other and illustrate how crazy addict thinking is and the sad places we will go to get high. But luckily, I don't have to live like that anymore. And, you know, one day at a time, neither do you, Dopey Nation. So stay strong and toodles for Chris.
Hey, there's a Dopey story for you. Jesse's Girl. Although, you know, she has some kind of page called Jesse's Girl, but her name is Jessie. She's Jessie. She's not Jesse's Girl. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
if her boyfriend who died, you know, rest in peace, if his name was Jesse,
then she'd be Jesse's girl.
She'd be Jesse's ex-girl, whatever. But it's a crazy story, and she's a lovely person, you know. Crazy story, though.
The only dreams that I have remembered in the last 6 months are either me using drugs and, like, using heroin, mostly, which I've never used. The last dream I had about heroin was I was drinking it. It was like I'd like, put powder heroin in a cup, and it was, like, charcoal colored. I was drinking it. So I dream about using drugs all the time.
You do still?
Those are only dreams I've remembered in the last 6 months. Or I've murdered someone and I'm trying to cover it up. And oftentimes, like, the body has been chopped up and I'm trying to figure out, like, where to hide the luggage that the chopped up pieces are in.
So you kill somebody.
These are my dreams.
Often.
All the time.
You often will murder somebody and put the cut up body in different pieces of suit luggage and then lose the luggage. This is a reoccurring dream.
Yeah, but a lot of times I'm like part of a ring of people who've committed the murder. Maybe I didn't actually murder, but I'm involved. I'm trying to cover it up.
Do you know what my reoccurring dream is?
Every using dream, too, I've ever had, I use, and then I'm like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this, and I'm not resetting my day count. Like, my immediate thought is, I'm lying about this.
According to Jesse, then your sobriety is total shit.
Yeah, I think that's bullshit.
The dream that I have is that I'm in a car going really fast, and I'm high, okay? And in the dream, I always fall out of the car, and the car keeps driving, and then I somehow wind up back in the car, and, like, but I'm off the road, and I'm running somebody over. Like, it's this reoccurring, like, weird losing control of a car dream. I have those all the time.
I often have the impulse when I'm in the car to roll out of the car.
While you're driving?
Yeah. No, usually if I'm a passenger.
Just to get out of the car.
Yeah, just like that feeling. Like, what would it feel like if on the highway I just opened the door and hit the ground?
That's a weird thing. You know what I always think? Literally, whenever I'm driving in a car, and this is since I was a kid, I've had this thought that if we're I think about whenever I'm on the West Side Highway, I think about this thought that we're driving somewhere, we're going 60 miles an hour, and what if I have a crossbow or a bow and arrow, okay, and I lean out of the car and I shoot the arrow? Will we be able to catch up with the arrow where I can just reach out and grab the arrow speeding forward?
That is really weird.
Can that, I mean, like, at some point, wouldn't the speed, I mean, at first, yes, the arrow would get ahead because it would have your speed plus that speed. But at some point, wouldn't the top speed of the car catch up to the arrow where I could just grab it?
I don't know.
That's a question for the Dopey Nation. Okay, back to DopeyCon.
Physics.
DopeyCon is coming, and we need stories for DopeyCon because the storytelling portion of DopeyCon needs storytellers. And I understand there's a great deal of trepidation in the Dopey Nation to be a DopeyCon storyteller, which is understandable. But try. Send me some fucking stories, and if we don't use it for DopeyCon, we can play it on the show. Supposedly, for DopeyCon, so far, we have interventionist Ray, who you know.
Yep.
We have supposedly, what's his face? Fucking Bob Forrest said he's coming. Maybe. Chris's sister said she's going to come and speak.
Nice.
Which could be very emotional. She can speak on Chris's behalf, probably better than I can, which is very beautiful. My dad is going to say a few words.
Nice.
I'm going to play a couple songs, I think. My buddy Ray, who's played on the show before, is going to play a couple songs too. And that is the bare bones so far. Plus wheeling, dealing, surprises, this and that, other speakers, questions and answers, merchandise. There's some dude named Daniel who's going to set up a photo booth.
Nice.
You know, it's going to be a whole thing. You really should come.
I'm going to try to come.
You're really going to miss out if you don't come. Now, I think we got to play. When do you have to go?
I have to go soon. I have to catch this flight.
When do you have to leave?
15 minutes.
Really? Aurora just said to me, I drink too much coffee and I feel crazy. And I said, you always do. But then I just thought about it for a second. Aurora and I were walking back from the meeting, and she's like, Dave, I need to go to a Starbucks to top off my drink. She's walking around with an empty Starbucks cup.
It's not empty. I had half a cold brew left, and all the ice had melted.
So they'll refill it
With ice, not with coffee. I just want more ice.
And she often complains about being overly caffeinated, but Aurora lives for free stuff so much that she needs to get the free stuff more than she dislikes feeling over caffeinated.
That's true.
So we find a Starbucks, and she goes in, and she goes, no, I need more ice. And he starts putting more ice in.
No, I didn't. I said very politely and sweetly, may I please have more ice? Would you mind putting some more ice?
Do you remember what
coffee?
you said after that? Because I do.
What?
You said, and a splash of almond milk, please?
Yes.
Oh, my God. And now here she is, bugging out, chomping at the bit on cold brew, bugged out. And she said, Dave, I don't think I talked enough about me. So let's hear it, Aurora. What's it like to be back in New York?
Well,
How's things?
when I landed at JFK and I took the cab into town,
Yes.
I saw the Manhattan skyline.
Yes.
And the skyline said to me, oh, you think you can leave us? You can't leave me. And it was like, I was like, oh shit, I'm back in New York and I belong here, was the feeling. And then I hit the fashion district where I happened to be staying and working, and I was like, fuck this. I don't miss it at all. And that area of town is really disgusting.
You're also dealing with a very, very, like, highfalutin, high-end, fucking stick-up-their-ass fucking shit, right?
What do you mean?
The fashion people. These hoity-toity fashionable types.
Not really. I mean, just that part of town, that part of Manhattan is so shitty looking and smelling and just like...
That's basically here.
Yeah, it is close to here.
This is where I grew up. This is my...
And I realize I've spent
My
so
roots.
much time in this neighborhood too. I've worked over the last, 10 years. I worked in this neighborhood many, many, many times. There's a lot of production companies that have offices here, but I do not miss this part of town. And I was not like, oh God, it's so great to be back. I didn't have that feeling. And I felt like, yeah, I'm happy where I am. I'm glad I'm in LA now.
Yeah, I fucking did not like LA, but I was totally addicted to drugs in LA. Every day of LA was like copping. How do I score? Like, and if I wasn't copping, it was like I was really sick. I spent a lot of time watching Lost in reruns. Like I remember we were packing up our apartment to move to Vermont, me and my ex-girlfriend. And I had just gotten out of detox because all I wanted to do is my mother was dying, and all I wanted to do was get off of methadone so I could leave Los Angeles, because I didn't want to leave, like try to transfer clinics, transfer methadone clinics from LA to Vermont. I was like, I don't want to do that. I need to get off. And I was on 150 milligrams of methadone, and I needed to get off in order to come home to be with my mom, before she died. And which was like the greatest thing one of the greatest things I ever did in my life was that. Being a parent is a close, was maybe better, but it's close. Anyway, I got the first time I kicked everything, methadone, heroin, pills, I still was smoking weed. It was June 4th. I think it was 2008. Okay. And
when did your mom die?
She died in November of that year. But
and then I saw you for the first time right after that.
Yeah. Back to you loving Los Angeles. Sorry, I just got caught up in the last time I kicked in LA. Terrible. Anyway, back to Los Angeles. You miss Los Angeles. You like Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm ready to go back. I love New York. I love New York. I could live the rest of my life here, but I don't want to be here anymore right now. I like being in California. It's somewhere different.
It's also not like you have your apartment now. You can't go home. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like...
And I'm here for work. I'm not on vacation, so it wasn't like I got to, like, do all the things I like to do in New York, go all the places, see all the friends.
I think it's kind of like the meeting today. I wanted to go there and it be like the meeting it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Or like where I have a fantasy about going back to school and it's like when I was in school. It's like if I visit LA, I would want to be able to go back to my old apartment and be there. So it's like when you come to New York, it's not like you're still here. You know, even if you're on vacation, it's still like a little bit bittersweet because you don't go home. Mm-hmm. You don't have your day-to-day people. It's different. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep. But it has been good to be back, and I do want to come back to see more people and to have, a bit of time here where I have, free time.
It's cool that you like LA. What else? What you really wanted to talk about yourself. So what else did you want to talk about? Oh, you know what I wanted to hear about is with your dad.
Oh yeah, my dad. So I called my dad when I got here, and my dad has been really concerned for the last 20 months that I get rid of my New York apartment and
Why?
that I get all my shit out of it.
Why?
Because he's fucking insane. He's an insane addict alcoholic. And he's convinced that the two people that sublet from me are going to steal everything that I've left in the apartment.
Oh.
So I've left very little. There's furniture. It's all 10 years old and some personal belongings. And he's convinced that they're going to fucking rob me and take everything because, he's crazy. So years ago, my dad gave me this Medusa head statue. He's obsessed with it. He's like,
it's nice though. It's a cool
beautiful.
Statue. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite possessions. But
you left it there.
I left it
Why
there.
did you leave it there?
Because when I left New York, I thought I was going to come back in 6 months and get the rest of my shit if I decided to stay in LA. I just thought I'd be back a lot sooner, and I haven't come back. I just thought I'd be back to move everything out of my apartment.
I think it's interesting that you keep the apartment at all, considering how you don't want to be here. Now that you've just admitted that.
Everybody, I never, when I went to the apartment yesterday, I never fucking want to live in that apartment again. I can never live there again. But everybody I know who's lived in New York City for 20 plus years is like, do not get rid of that apartment. I mean, it's relatively inexpensive for Manhattan, and it doesn't cost me anything to keep it right now. As soon as it becomes inconvenient, I'm going to get rid of it.
Right. That makes sense. Anyway, so talk about your dad and the Medusa head.
So my dad is convinced this Medusa head is like my retirement plan, that this Medusa head is like some kind of ancient artifact by some famous artist, and that it's worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a Medusa head that he fucking hustled from some guy in a drug deal. Like, he traded drugs for this Medusa, like was at this guy's house, saw the Medusa head, said he liked it, and traded drugs for it.
It's like the other version of the Professor story, except instead of the camera, it was the Medusa head.
It's like complete insanity.
So what did he trade for it? Do you have any idea?
He told me the story when I was there at Christmas, and I can't remember if it was like weed or crack or whatever it was. Or even maybe a couple beers, who knows? It was crazy. And some like typical crack-a-lacka fucking addict shit. And so, over the years when my dad was drinking heavily, like I would never pick up the phone if my dad was calling past noon. If he was calling past noon, I knew he was hammered. So I'd only pick up the phone in the morning. So sometimes he would get crazy and call me drunk and be like, Aurora, I want that fucking Medusa head. Or like, I'm going to come to fucking New York and I need to get that Medusa head.
Because he wants to take it back. He thinks it's worth something, and it would. And
sometimes he'd get drunk and want to take it back. Or like if I didn't pick up the phone, he'd be like, you're a fucking bitch and I want my Medusa head back.
It's sad and funny.
It's sad and funny. And, you know, sometimes he'd call me and be like, I'm going to fucking kill you. You better save this voicemail because they're going to play it at my trial for your murder. Like,
wow.
those were typical voicemails.
It's typical loving father.
Yeah. So.
And he's off of everything now, though, right?
Well, he's dry.
But he's not drinking or doing drugs.
No. So I can talk to him now a lot more than I used to. But he's obsessed with me getting the Medusa head and me getting the shit out of my apartment because he thinks the people that, you know, have lived there for 2 years are going to clean me out. And so when I'm here for work and I'm telling him I'm going to stop at the apartment and get the Medusa head and a couple more things. And, you know, he's just starts yelling at me that I'm a fucking idiot for like hanging on to the apartment and, you know, for not that I don't know what I'm doing basically and that people are going to steal from me because those are his fears, you know? And I know it's like coming from a place of love and caring, but it's fucking abusive at the end of the day. It feels like shit and it brings up a lot of old.
But that's how he doesn't know how to love you with anything besides abuse.
Exactly.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
I just hit a point on last week where I was like, I can't fucking take the abuse right now. And so, you know, I started yelling back to him, like, look, I know what I'm doing. I know how to live my life. I don't need you to tell me how to do this, you know? And then he hung up on me and I haven't talked to him since.
So what are you going to do?
Well, it's my birthday on Monday, so...
This Monday's your birthday?
Yeah.
This is the first year you haven't given me like 3 weeks reminders before your birthday.
Yeah, Labor Day, Monday's my birthday.
Holy shit, I hope everyone in the Dopey Nation is ready to celebrate Aurora's birthday because shit's going to get real on Monday.
You can send your gifts, too.
Right. Send other Medusa artifacts to this old apartment in Manhattan.
So I'm going to give him a call. I'll call him Sunday or Monday.
So he knows to celebrate your birthday? No,
just to make the peace. And a lot of times now when he, like, these outbursts aren't as usual as they used to be when he was drinking. So a lot of times now we don't talk about it at all. We don't mention it. And sometimes he says sorry. And maybe I owe an apology too for like losing my cool with an insane person.
You might as well. I mean, it's like your dad's not going to live forever, right?
No. And my dad is convinced that when he tries to give me everything he owns in his apartment because he's convinced when he dies, he's going to get robbed immediately by all the, like, you know, hustlers in his neighborhood. But I told him, like, don't worry, Dad, you're not going to die suddenly. You're going to die a slow, painful death.
Nice. Now, there's a couple, Aurora's got to go in a second, so there's a couple other things that we need to do. One thing that I didn't say that Mountainside is very concerned with, which is we don't want any storytellers who are in active addiction. Okay? Now, what that means to me, and also I heard from one of the administrators of the Dopey Nation Facebook group that there's a dude fucking this kid who used to write nasty things about me also, who said he's going to bring dope to DopeyCon. Now, that's not a good idea. This is not like a rave. This is not a place where getting high is going to be good. It's not going to be fun to be at DopeyCon all high. It's going to be bad. And if you want to tell a story at DopeyCon, it's way better if you do it from some sort of sober place. So I say that to you. We want people to speak about fucked up shit in recovery or addiction, but we don't want you to be high when you're doing it. We don't want you to really come if you're all fucked up because it's not going to be good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there a nicer way to say that?
No, I think you made your point.
All right. I got this email from this guy, and like he's all like obsessed, or not obsessed, but annoyed that I haven't been reading emails. So I feel like we need to read the email. But all right, I'll read it. He says, "Hi, Dave. I'm a big fan of the show." And then he puts in parentheses, first 75 episodes.
Ooh.
Well, Chris lived to 142 episodes, so it's like, but why put that in there, first 75 episodes? That just annoys me. Do you think he's only listened to them, or he just really liked those more?
No, he's like, you were better in the beginning.
Right. I actually heard about it from This American Life. I started listening from the beginning, thinking I would just check it out, and I have been hooked ever since. I've been listening from the start for a few months. You guys are hilarious, and it's hard to imagine. I think he's only in the first 75 episodes. And it's hard to imagine what the show is going to be like without Chris.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I will ultimately have to listen to the last episode of you and Chris. This will be a very sad day. A little about me. I'm a 36-year-old non-devout Jew. I am a veterinary surgeon and have the worst motherfucking ADD on the planet. I've been on daily Vyvanse and or other type of amphetamines and wonder and amazement how I only ever sat one day in jail. My ADD is so bad that cocaine actually makes me focus, but with a really numb face. By the way, Chris's vet story was awesome, and your knowledge of the pertinent Yiddish language is solid. Listening to the interactions between you and your dad are awesome. Your dad coming on for the first time was my favorite episode by far. No, see, he's definitely only in the first 75.
I agree. Wait, what was the Yiddish word you called me earlier?
A schnurrer.
What is a schnurrer?
A schnurrer is somebody who's classically shows up when they know dinner is being served because they want a free meal. Aurora used to sit next to me in AA meetings and ask me to put $1 in the fucking hat for her.
And you would ask me to put $1 when you didn't have cash.
Anyway, that never happened. Anyway, I always had cash. I was like,
that's true. You do always have cash.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a gift of my sobriety. Anyway. Aurora's classic schnurr, but I love her. You know, I love that you're here, and it's really fun to have you in person on the show. Your dad coming on for the first time was my favorite episode by far. It reminds me of talking to my mother. I live in a neighborhood immediately next to Kensington, which is by Philadelphia. I actually live in Old Kensington. Not sure if you know about Kensington. We do. It's an open-air drug market. But anyway, let me read this. I think you guys talked about it in a few of the earlier episodes, but it's a large fucking open-air drug market. I drive through it every day. I'm sure the stories out of there are amazing. I mean, I see a lot of them. While I am not afflicted in the sense of being a heroin user, I do enjoy my recreational drug habit of daily cannabis and often enough alcohol. Often enough alcohol. That's a weird phrase. So I guess in the strictest sense, I'm a functional drug addict. He says addict and it's not addict. I'm a functional drug addict, like the place you go in the top of your house to do drugs. No, he's a functional drug addict who has dabbled in cocaine and pills, but has never gone further. I am fucking addicted to sweets, though. I don't know how I am not 500 pounds by now. I can relate to that. I know I asked before, but it wasn't about a shirt. What's the easiest way to buy a shirt? Should I just buy it from the website? Yes, you should. Also, please continue to use the word goy. It is my favorite Yiddish word that I use a lot, oftentimes while shaming a waspy friend. Anyway, just wanted to drop a line and say hi, and that I'm a big fan. Take it easy and toodles for Chris. Cheers, Jay. So that was Jay. He wrote. Somebody complained. I think Big Mike is his name, Big Rob, some big guy who I like on Instagram complained he wanted certain guests, and then this dude chimed in. He's like, yeah, and they're not reading the emails either. So I read that for this guy. I feel like you got to go.
Yeah, I
so
gotta go.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an unprecedented move of wrapping the show up with Aurora and then continuing on after she's gone. What do you say?
I don't think it's going to be as good or as fun, but go for it.
So, Aurora, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I want to do this again in person.
You probably won't. Maybe Aurora will be at DopeyCon. What do you think? What are the odds for gambling freaks out there? What are the odds?
50-50.
50-50. That sounds like 0%.
Yeah.
All right. So, chances are Aurora won't be there. But thank you for coming on. Do you want to say anything else?
Love you, Dave. I love doing the show live with you. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to be sober today. I'm grateful to have been here, and yeah.
Aurora also had dental surgery and lost a sponsee. The end.
I did. I really did. I had one day off in New York, and I had dental surgery, and I lost a sponsee. So, but you know what? Life is good. Life is good.
All right, let's get you to the airport.
Okay. Thanks to the Dopey Nation, and I want to say, Minase Doodles.
All right, so Aurora's gone. Thank you, Aurora. Loved having Aurora in person. Thought that was a very, very cool thing. I love sitting with friends and recording the show. It's the closest version of doing it with Chris. I always thought Aurora would be great. I'd love to hear your opinion about Aurora's performance on Dopey. So write a fucking email to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, I promised a clearinghouse of sorts of information, and I want to come through. But before I play my first second voicemail, does that make sense? My first extra voicemail, I want to talk about that Appalachian business, that thing that I read at the front of the show. It is a music festival in West Virginia called the Appalachian Healing Festival. And there is a terrible opioid problem in West Virginia, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the fact that I'm going to go down there for this thing, and Linda and my kids were supposed to come with me, but somehow logic prevailed, and they decided that they weren't going to come. So I asked Sam, and Sam was like, I'm not going to come. And then I asked my friend Justin, and he was like, I'm not going to come. And then I thought about it, who do I know that could come that doesn't have anything else going on? And Ray, the great Ray, popped into my head, and Ray is going to come with me to West Virginia. He's a musician. He's played a bunch of songs on the show. His most famous one is "This Dopey Dopey Podcast That's Coming in Your Ears." You know that one. Anyway, he's going to be at DopeyCon also. So me and Ray are flying into Washington, and we're going to drive to West Virginia, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm going to MC this festival. So the point is, if you guys are anywhere near West Virginia on September 28th, please come. I would love to see you guys there. Anyway, here is a voicemail from a woman named Christine, and I really like this one.
Hey, Dave. I'm giving you a call because I'm listening to episode 34, and I'm driving down the road belly laughing, and I pull over because I have to record this and send it to you. This is the episode, I have not finished it, but this is the episode where Chris is explaining to you how he used to get in his car and drive around and drink. And he was in high school, and he did this every day. And he's talking about having alcohol in the car, drinking, and having to drive it off, being so drunk he's got to drive it off. And then, I'm just sitting here laughing hysterically in my car because I'm from Minnesota, and this is something the day one after I got my driver's license that me and my friends did. We called it booze cruising. We're like, hey, let's go for a booze cruise. And we lived in a city that was quite small, and we had friends that lived an hour north, and we had friends that lived an hour south. And so we would load up these super huge, you could call it a big gulp, but we didn't have big gulps in where I lived. So we just stopped at the gas station and got these huge cups, and we would drink Bacardi Light, the clear, I think Chris called it Bacardi Dry, which is so funny. He was drinking the same thing we were, and we would drink it with this blue Mountain Dew. I don't even think they make it anymore, but booze cruising, yes, we did it. And the funniest part of the of this whole story is when you interject and you're wait a minute, apparent, you don't have to drive in Manhattan. So this concept to you of drinking and driving in your car is so foreign, because you can be drunk and take a train or a bus or whatever it is that you do. I don't know. We don't have that here, and I've never been to Manhattan. But just the part where Chris says he's so drunk he has to drive it off, that is a very real thing. And my God, now that I'm a grown adult, it sounds so awful, and I have children, and I just cannot imagine my child doing that. Dear Lord. I just had to stop, though. I literally pulled over, shut the car off, because I got a really good laugh out of this one. So I started listening to the show through This American Life, and I'm all caught up. I've been listening, and finally I was like, you know what? I have got to go back. So I started from day one, and now I'm on episode 34, and I can't wait to keep listening. And I just became a patron, is that the word? Patreon. I I am very excited anyways to help support what it is you're doing. The show definitely keeps me going, gets me excited, makes me laugh, makes me tear up and cry. I don't really have a lot of people to share my stories with. I've got some dopey stories, and for the longest time I was quite embarrassed of them. So I still am, but I feel like I might be sharing some with you and the Dopey Nation soon, because I feel less awkward about my dark lifestyle that I lived. So thank you very much for that, and stay strong, Dopey Nation.
Thanks, Christine. That's incredibly beautiful. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to fathom how many people are so connected by the show. It means everything to me. It's very beautiful, but it's also very hard to internalize. So I'm going to read this email from this very long-time listener. His name is John. He wrote, "Long-time listener, I'm sure you remember. We've talked often through email, and a few of my emails have been read on the show. My Instagram is John is Ham. I'll have 3 years clean September 16th, and you and Chris were with me through it all. Detoxing at home, the first 30-day struggle, and the miracle that's been the last 3 years of my life. I was homeless, living in Kensington, robbing stores, and shooting 20 to 30 bags of Philly dope a day. I figured I'd die out there, with my wife and 2-year-old daughter alone. Fast forward to now. I'm clean, back with my wife of 15 years. My daughter now 5, and we had a second child who's almost 2, and life is truly a blessing. When Chris passed, it hit hard. I questioned my own recovery. Like, if he couldn't do it, how could I? I really looked up to you guys. Your story was like my story, and you were doing the deal and having fun. Sadly, we lost Chris, and it still hurts, and I can't imagine what that was like for you. Him and Todd in quick order. Ugh. You just have a great program and family support. Linda is amazing. Love it when she's on. You become Chris and she becomes you. It's hilarious. Just wanted to check in, say the show's still awesome. Forget the haters. Friday night is still my favorite night of the week. Stay strong, everyone." And that's John. I love that email because John is always on Instagram. John is Ham. I love that. Hard as a motherfucker, I assume is what ham means. But just the fact that he's been through it basically as long as I have, and a bunch of you guys that have listened since the beginning. I know Tina and Scott. I don't know if Scott Countryman still listen. Troy. I mean, one Troy died. The other Troy is still alive. Jed from Church and Other Drugs. If you guys are an old Dopey listener from the very beginning, send me an email at dopeypodcast@gmail.com. It's just cool. The new guys are fucking awesome too. Everybody who listens is great. Anybody that wants to go back and hear it from the beginning is awesome. It means a lot to me. I know there's a bunch of voicemails bopping around in my email, and hopefully we'll get to most of them in time. I'm going to do one more from this guy, Zebulon. I just like this guy. I like this voicemail. If you've sent in a good voicemail and I haven't played it, please remind me. If I haven't done something for you that I'm supposed to do, please remind me. Stickers are getting shipped out this week on Tuesday or Wednesday. Shit is in the mail. DopeyCon is coming. Here is Zebulon.
What's up, Dave? What's up, Dopey Nation? This is Zebulon coming to you from the beautiful state of Vermont. I'm going to tell you the story about my first legal drink. So I turned 21 in rehab. It sucked. I came in the day before my birthday, so I was detoxing off of heroin, and I went down to eat lunch, and they fucking gave me a cake. I'm detoxing, and everyone is singing happy birthday. Oh, it was awful. Anyway, so I turned 21 in rehab, and then I went straight to a sober house in Boca Raton, the Boca House, right next to Delray Beach where Dave was at. Anyway, so I'm there for about 4 months. I'm staying sober. It's pretty good. I have a car. I have my little Saab, my 88 Saab from Vermont plates. I drove down there to stay there. And So me and a few buddies from the sober house decided to go down to Miami to check it out. So we're in downtown Miami, in this little mall arcade area right on the water, right on the marina. And we go up to the Hooters to get food. So we're all sitting there in the Hooters, and the lady, the beautiful woman, comes up to take our order. And one of the dudes, there's four of us, one of the dudes looks at her and says, she says, "What would you guys like to drink?" And he looks at her and says, "I'll take a Heineken." Now, we're all sober at the time, so we all perk up, our eyes bug out, and we look at him and we're like, one by one, we say, "Me too, me too, me too." So we end up getting really drunk at a Hooters, and I'm 21, and that's my first legal drink. Now, it's not that crazy of a story, but on the way home, we're in maybe Pompano Beach. We get off the highway in Pompano, I believe, and I stop at a gas station to get gas. So when we stop at this gas station, we all go in to get stuff. I'm hanging out, pumping gas. And one by one, there's this kid. He's probably 12 or 13, this little black kid. And he comes up and he asks us, I believe he asked us if we could buy him beer, some stupid thing like that, or buy him cigarettes. And we're all like, nah, no, man, you know, because he looks way, way young. Like I said, 12 or 13. Anyway, we leave the gas station. We get back in the car. We're about a mile down the road. And all of a sudden, we get pulled over by a sheriff's car. And then a bunch of police cars just swarm in, 5 or 6 of them. They all get out of the car. They're in riot gear. Sheriff fucking vests on, shotguns, fucking machine guns, and they talk to me, you know, they pull us all out of the car. Get out of the car, get out of the car. They're screaming, get out of the car. We all get out of the car. We're standing in line. They pat us down. They're like, "Where are you guys going? Where are you from?" And I say, "I'm from the Boca House." And right away, he's like, "Is there anything in my pockets I'm going to get pricked with?" No. And I say, "What is this about?" And he says, "I know you guys bought drugs from the dude at the convenience store." And he was talking about the 12 or 13-year-old kid. We've been watching him for a while. We know he sells drugs, and we know you guys bought some. So they proceed to search my car, and I'm thinking, oh no, maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe that kid was selling drugs and one of my buddies bought something from him. My car is a wreck, garbage all over the floor and stuff. And they look through it, they tear it apart. It's pretty funny because they got to look through old McDonald's bags and all shit. They pat us all down, search us all. They don't find anything. Well, they end up fucking saying, "Have a good night," and they let us go. So that's the story of my first night, the first legal drink I had. All right. Peace out, Dopey Nation. Bye.
I love that story. You might be listening and say, "That's not great. What do you love about that story?" And I'll tell you what I love about that story. First thing I love, heroin addict, 21 years old in detox on his birthday, detoxing heroin on his birthday. The second thing I love is that so many of you guys are heroin addicts who have been to rehab, and you know what it's like to kick in rehab, and you know what it's like to turn up in some rehab, and what it's like to go out with your friends and somebody gets a beer. It's just, we have this strange community that, and that's why people love to be in the Dopey Nation, because it's a weird shared experience. Yeah, that story is not the grisliest of stories, but it also, I was in treatment in Florida. I lived in Vermont. My ex-girlfriend had a sob. So it all just, I don't know. I like his name, Zebulon. I like that story. Now we're going to go, but before we go, I want to do the Dopey review of the week. My dad loves reviews. Chris loved reviews way more than my dad. Chris would make all of his friends write reviews. Anyway, Dopey review of the week. It says, alcoholics will also enjoy. I love listening to Dopey. This is from Nejimi Jack, and he says, with 5 stars, "I love listening to Dopey. I started listening after I heard of Chris's death, which really guts me after listening to so many episodes of him. I'm a recovering alcoholic with a pretty significant drug history as well, but I find the episodes to be very funny, and in the midst of laughter, Dave and Chris say something that really resonates with me. Overall, extremely entertaining and therapeutic. Love you, Dave, and miss you, Chris. You've helped me a lot." Well, there it is. DopeyCon is coming October 12th. Tickets go on sale next week. It's going to be $5. It's going to be online. There's going to be a lot of cool Dopey stuff happening. So if you can go, I suggest you go. There's only 100 tickets. Obviously, it's going to be first come, first serve. Stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. And I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I want to be good so bad. Want to be good so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I want to call my dad, and it's all I ever had. 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 And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I ever had. And I want to